How many of you spend a lot of time thinking about food, negotiating about food, worrying about food, noticing what other people are eating, questioning why they can eat like that and you can't, and commenting on their bodies and your bodies and comparing? You know when you're in the right place if you wish you could just be normal around food and not give it so much time and energy. How much can you relate to these things? How often are these things showing up in your life? Hello, everyone. Welcome to this amazing opportunity to learn and grow. I am thrilled that you're here, and it brings me so much joy to have you all coming on and that we can spend this hour and a half together. So, all right, as we go, I want you to share where you're from, because it's fun to know that we can just go online and we can just be from all over the world. It makes my heart so happy that we can have this experience. I love technology and I love this opportunity. So put it in the chat. Where are you from? What are you excited about learning? And how can we best set you up for success for today? So I apologize. On Instagram, I said that today's class, Los Angeles, how cool. I have been to that airport a few times. It's a very, very big airport. So you can put it in the chat where you're from and what you want to get from this webinar. I apologize. On my Instagram, I said we were talking about our childhood, how our childhood is disrupting us from our adult goals. But as we go through this, but really it's about why we eat when we're not really hungry. And we will talk a little bit about our childhood and how it sabotages, and it all kind of blends together. So don't worry, I will answer all the questions. But yeah, I'm glad that, so we've got people, I can tell some of the people that are here. So we have Utah, we have Iowa. So if you want to keep sharing where you're from, that would be awesome. I'm on Vancouver Island. Has anyone been? Oh, Michigan. So cool. Has anyone been here? Victoria, Bouchard Gardens. It is absolutely beautiful where I live, and the daffodils are just coming up. And we have these beautiful, gorgeous purple flowers called heather. There's lots of different kinds of heather, but they're just sprouting, and it really is beautiful. So being a Canadian, most of Canada is under a lot of snow, but not me. So that's pretty fun. Oh, there we go. You lived in Fort Lewis, Washington for several years. Okay, so you know about how beautiful the weather is here. It is rainy, but I've learned to love the rain. I didn't think I was. I'm a prairie girl at heart, and I've learned so much. All right, so let's get to it. And I always work through my slides because it helps me stay focused, and also it helps to keep everyone on track. And for those, I used to be a school teacher, and so I taught school, and I also taught quilting for many years. So I know that everyone has different learning types, and so I like to be inclusive for everyone. All right, so why are you here? What would you say is the biggest challenge that you have with your weight? Today I have a VIP group. I have my regular membership group, and in my VIP group, one of the members brought to my attention this horrific, on the AGS, it's the American, is it AGS? I wrote it down. But basically it's ASG, about how we need to, if you have a less than perfect body type, these are the kinds of clothes that you should be wearing. And I am mortified from that this is 2026 and people are still saying, if you don't have the ideal body, you are in trouble. And you need to change, and you need not to be, you're not as worthy as the other people. And so we really need to change that narrative. And I'm very aware of how that kind of perception and that influence that we've had for all of our lives have really impacted our unhealthy relationship with food. So Sarah said, I eat when I don't want to. I eat foods I know I shouldn't. Also, I'm a baby quilter, meaning I have done only a few. Yay! We have to all start somewhere, Sarah. And isn't that a fun name? You rhyme with me. So that's awesome. Yeah. So this is something that you're going to really take from this webinar is we know what we should eat. So it's like, why aren't we eating that? And Sarah, that was my story my whole life. I felt so confused because I'm a accomplished person. I'm a university graduate. I'm a mom of 5 kids. I've done a professional quilter, published author. By the way, you don't have to be a quilter to work with me. I just happen to just work with quilters overall. But there's non-quilters who I work with also. But it's fascinating because I thought there was such a division between like successful Dara, who could, put my mind to it and I could accomplish anything, like I'm going to publish a quilting book. I'm going to get this job teaching quilting in Houston, or I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to get my degree and all these things. But when it came to food, I just felt like such a failure. And there was so much noise and it was so confusing. And I just felt so defeated because I saw myself as someone, if you put enough work into something, you can be successful. University wasn't a cakewalk, but I was able to figure out the tools. And of course I was able to do it. Same thing with teaching in my classroom and even professionally quilting, how to quilt these beautiful feathers. At first it seemed really overwhelming and crazy. I'd watch these people on YouTube quilting these gorgeous feathers. And I thought, how could you even do that? And now I'm someone who could film these gorgeous feathers on YouTube because I figured it out. So this webinar is going to help you figure out why there's such a disconnect between knowing what you should eat and then following through. So that is my goal for today. And I am so happy you're here. So one of the questions I often asked myself was, if I'm so smart, why can't I lose weight? Now, I just want you to ask yourself that question. Why is it that actually, I should say it this way. You can lose weight, but keeping it off is a nightmare. So I have some of these questions. So you're in the right place if you have this has happened to you. So you've stood in your kitchen after dinner, stomach is full, but you eat something anyway. You're in the right place if you've gone through the drive-thru while doing errands and then throw the wrappers away. You don't want anyone to know. You don't even tell anyone that that's what you ate. Or you're in the right place if you find yourself uncomfortable after dinner and you regret how much you ate. So if this is you, say, that's me in the chat. You're like, yep. So be honest. And it is helpful to have, you're not alone. You're in the right place, that as in being here on this webinar, if you feel pressure to eat in social settings. I teach a religious class to young adults, and today we're having a pizza party, and I'm not going to have any of the pizza. I think we're going to have ice cream treats as well. I'm not going to have any of those. I've chosen not to. And so I usually don't eat after 6. If I wanted to choose to do that, I could, but I'm just choosing not to. So that idea of that pressure in social settings, how do you feel there? What about if you're in the right place for this webinar, if you worry that you will overeat when you're with friends and family, and that your time is divided by all of the stresses and negotiations around food? How many of you spend a lot of time thinking about food, negotiating about food, worrying about food, noticing what other people are eating, questioning why they can eat like that and you can't, and commenting on their bodies and your bodies and comparing? Can you relate to that? So you're in the right place if you're not sure why food has such a hold on you and your quality of life. It's very confusing, isn't it? You're like, why does this have so much hold on me? And you're in the right place if you wish you could just be normal around food and not give it so much time and energy. Well, I am so glad you're here. So I can see that, Sarah's seeing it. I don't know, you know, whoever else is here. How much can you relate to these things? How often are these things showing up in your life? And if they are, there's actually nothing wrong with you. But if you don't address these and if you don't look at them and really see what's happening, you're just going to keep going like a treadmill, right? And it's just going to keep going and you're never going to change, no matter how hard you work. Now we've grown up in a diet culture that says, restrict, work hard, you need to have more discipline, you have to have more willpower, you definitely have to talk to yourself in a harsh way. And one of the challenges that we have is we have this idea of this diet culture. Now I have a little clip here from Oprah Winfrey. I don't necessarily agree with her book, but I think it would be interesting. Here, let me share what she says here. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
So we have a new book out, Dr. Anya Yasharoff and myself, Oprah Winfrey. The reason I did the book is because I want people to stop blaming themselves, because if you think, like I thought for 50 years, that losing weight is about willpower, you are wrong. I was wrong. For 50 years, I was wrong. And now I understand that it's about biology.
So it's not about the willpower. The problem that I'm seeing, and this is a side note, now Oprah Winfrey saying it's fully genetic and that she has the obesity gene. And the problem with that, and I think that there are some genetics. We can have genetics play into, just like if willpower worked, we'd all be thin. Totally. If diets worked, we'd all be thin. The problem now with Oprah, I think she's swung too far by saying that it's fully genetic and that she has the obesity gene and it's not her fault. The problem is it's not looking at taking responsibility for yourself. Now, there are a lot of factors that are involved in weight loss. And so if we think that it's just one thing like that, like with obesity gene, then we're not going to take responsibility for ourselves and what's really going on. So, and I have a whole thoughts about that, about our evolution and, how we were raised, what was modeled to us in our families. And I also want to address what we see is what we repeat. So if families, that's normal to overeat, it's normal to have dessert every meal, it's normal to do those things, then we're going to get those different results. So we can fall prey to diet culture. And the diet culture tells you things like you lack discipline, you're too emotional, you're addicted to food, and you need more willpower. And when we feel like this is the problem, then we actually never get to the root of what's really going on. So then our weight and our situation with food just feels like a giant puzzle that can never be solved. And I really want to help you realize, no, you can solve it. You're just using your energy. You're using all the wrong parts that isn't going to serve you. So I want to dive into your unique story, because this is where the struggle I see working with thousands of women over the last 5 years on when I first started with working on weight loss, which, by the way, I'm an accidental weight loss coach. I started working with a life coach in 2018, and in August of 2018. And then by 2019, I had lost 50 pounds without counting calories and tracking steps. And my main way of losing weight was with my brain. It was learning the difference between what I believed about myself, what I thought about myself. I learned about the power of our thoughts. What we think is what we become. I learned how to process my emotions instead of stuffing food down. I learned all this new set of skills, this new toolbox, and the result of that was 50 pounds down. And I've kept that 50 pounds, well, it's about 50 pounds or so, off since that time. Not needing to exercise or counting calories, all because I learned what was really going on in here and in here, this connection. And so I want you to write down in the chat, what do you think has been the biggest obstacle for you to lose weight? So some of these could be, if I don't lose weight, I'm not good enough. So then you just put a ton of pressure on yourself. Or I'm not smart enough, so I need to follow everyone else's rules. Or I don't want to feel my feelings, and so I'm going to use food or alcohol or pornography or over shopping or over people pleasing or over procrastinating, which looks like scrolling and shopping, because I don't want to feel my feelings. Okay? So what is your story? Now, if you don't want to share it in the chat, that's okay. But I want you to ask yourself, why don't I weigh what I want to weigh? Why am I using food to distract myself from whatever emotion it is? Now, let's go back in time, and it might even just be a few hours ago, or yesterday, or right now even maybe. When was the last time you ate when you weren't hungry? So did you go through the kitchen and grab maybe an apple and some almonds? Did you're doing errands and maybe you just yesterday? Okay, so I want to know what it was. What happened? Was it a family dinner? Was it preparing food? Were you out doing errands? What was that situation? Family dinner. Was it feeling like you needed to be like everybody else? The fear of missing out? Maybe there was a special treat. Yesterday I made chocolate chip cookies and eat more bars for my kids for dessert. So we're not saying that food's enemy, but if we are eating more than what we don't need, that's a problem, because then our body becomes a storage unit. Okay? So what was the thought? So if we were to replay this on the stage and we were looking at it, if we took the film and you and I were sitting on the couch, I was like, Sarah or Marlene or whoever it is, what was the situation? So did someone make a comment? Did you feel like you had to keep eating because you didn't want to say anything? So our bodies, so this is great. I hope all of you have this in your head of like, what was it? And I want you to picture the scene. Why did you overeat? Did you feel afraid that you were going to say something you didn't want to say? I felt like I was unconscious. Yes. Okay. So how often do we do that, where we will just go and do something and not think twice? Because this is a habit, right? Now, I want to explain a few things, Sarah, and everyone else, and wonder if how this relates to you. So in our brain, of course, is our central processing unit. We also have our stomachs, and our stomachs are actually another brain. Okay, it operates and it does all these things. In fact, our stomach brain was born before our human brain. So in utero, okay? So our stomach brain is always thinking and always doing different functions. So in our brain, we have two kind of functions. We have the higher brain, which is like the CEO. It's the part of our brain that can think about our thinking. And then we have what's called our lower brain, or our safety brain. Some people call it the reptilian brain. And that's the part of our brain. It's kind of like the police officer or the bodyguard. It's always scanning for danger. I often think about that mama deer who brings out her baby into the field and is constantly scanning for danger. Can you just see that? So that mama deer is so aware, hyper aware of like sounds, if there's like a twig that breaks or, anything that's out of the ordinary, she is going to really pay attention. All right. And our lower brain is 5 times more active and likely to look for danger than safety brain. Okay. That lower brain has kept us alive. That is how we've survived pandemics, all sorts of things, because we are hyper vigilant. So Sarah and everyone else here on this webinar, I want you to think, why would I turn to food when I'm not actually hungry? Why would my lower brain say we should eat right now? So do we eat because everyone else is eating and we want to fit in? Are we eating because we don't want to say what we really want to say because we don't want people to get mad at us? Are we trying to fit in with everybody else? Are we feeling uncomfortable and so we're trying to take the edge off? Like, what is it that we're doing? Why are we eating that food? Are we feeling like really nervous about what could happen? And so if we're like agitated, if we eat food, does that make us feel like we can feel a little bit more calm or grounded? Is it something to distract ourselves, like to chew, to self-soothe? Like what is it actually about? Okay. Now, when you think about our nervous system, so here we have looking for danger, and it's 5 times more likely. So that's why, and this will be interesting for you to think about. You know when someone makes a comment and you perseverate on it? So I had to get, my eyelids were very, like I had hooded eyelids, and it was causing difficulty with my vision. And I qualified for this free surgery, and it's amazing. Like, it's amazing how much you can see my eyeballs now. Like, I feel so much less tired at night because I don't have this heavy. But my son came home. He's just got married this summer, and he came home at Christmas, and he just made this comment. He says, "Mom, you look different now." That's all he said. And I just was like, I thought, oh, Does he think I don't look as good as I used to? Does he think I'm vain because I got this surgery? I mean, it wasn't like plastic surgery. I didn't go to a plastic surgeon. It was like literally paid by the government. It was a medical need, but I was perseverating about it, right? Does this happen to you? If you're like, yes, someone says something and I think about it and I overthink about it and and it's like it goes circle and circle in my head. Tell me if this is not just me. What about when you were a kid? Did your grandpa, grandma, your mom, your dad make a comment like, "Hey, why do you eat so much at the dinner?" Or, "You sure have a healthy appetite." Or, why are you eating so much? Or, "Wow, look at you." The other thing that's made a difference is I'm not going like this all the time to see more. And so my forehead is a lot less calm. My husband's like, "Oh, that's why you always did this." And I'm like, "Yes, because I needed to try to open my eyes." Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Okay, so I want you just to know that weight loss, and we're going to talk about the 2 different kinds of hunger coming up. We have emotional hunger and we have physical hunger. But in order for us to understand what's really going on, we do need to understand what's happening in our brain. And the problem is our brain communicates to our body through our hormones. So every thought we have our thought creates an emotion. So if I said to you, if I got a phone call right now and it was the school saying, "Your son just got in an accident, you have to come immediately," I would have to say to you all right now, I'm like, I have to go. There's major danger at the school. I have to take care of my son. That's just a thought. And then the hormones are like little cars that communicate into your body. And your body says, "Alert, danger." We start to sweat. Our heart starts beating like crazy. We have to get fast into gear. We have to, we just snap into this adrenaline starts going through us and we take off. We don't say, "Oh, well, that's too bad. Oh, man." No, we're like, "Okay, I gotta go. I gotta take care of my son," right? It's immediate. We don't double think. We don't do anything. So when our body is having thoughts like, "I need to fit in," what they're saying. If I don't do what my family says, if they could think that I don't love them, or they could think I'm judging them, they might not want to ever spend time with me. All of those thoughts, even though they're fleeting, they all have an emotional response. And sometimes when it's like just like with Sarah, you were saying you were at this family dinner and there was, I don't know, it was a trigger, and it was like, I should just eat something. That's going to calm me down. I'm just going to chew for a little bit, or I'm just going to drink a little bit, or maybe I'll take have some sugar so I can get a little dopamine hit. Right? So do you see how when you go back and you're watching the movie of yourself, now when we're doing this, we're in our higher brain and we're able to think about our thinking. That's called metacognition. So then we're able to say, oh, that makes so much sense, Sarah. Or that makes so much sense, Marlene. Or that makes so much sense, Diane. Oh, you're not dumb. You just had this, like you just went into fight, flight, freeze, or we also call it fawn, which is people pleasing. So those are the 4 responses when we feel threatened and danger, okay? So let's think about, these are some real life examples here. So you're standing in the kitchen after dinner. The cookies are saying like, hey, come and get me. So like when that happens, or the cookies or the cake, or maybe scrolling, or maybe all of a sudden you have a shopping emergency where you're like, I need to buy some fabric, or I need to I need to go research a bunch of stuff, right? Whatever that looks like. So then you distract yourself from what's really going on. So what I want you to do is you notice, oh, look, I'm distracting myself from what's happening. That's called buffering. I'm not looking at what's really going on. And so I have to make this decision. The cookie won't fix my exhaustion. So, okay, I just got to sit here with this uncomfortable feeling. Okay, this is hard. So this is what's called having a time out. So going back to what I asked you earlier, when you ate that food, what was the thought right before you had that food? Was it, I don't know how to deal with this person. They're driving me crazy. I need to just take a break. So then you feel stressed. And when you feel stressed, you eat the chocolate or you take another bite. You're like, this person is making me crazy. I don't want to say something I regret. So then you feel worried. And then the action is you take a bite. Okay? So your thought will create your emotions, which then fuel your actions, which create your results. So what you think is what you become. And as a life coach, who also is a weight loss coach, I help you bridge that gap of being aware of what thoughts are coming and how do we work through those thoughts. So now you don't feel like a victim to your life. Okay, so when you had that thought here, like what was that thought right before you ate that food? What felt dangerous? Okay, and what do you think the food was protecting you from? Now, when you think about our brain was wired, and this is the part about the childhood eating habits, okay? So I'm bringing this together for you. So when you were a little girl, you walked around with a notebook. So if your mom said, good girls, such good questions for me to think about. I'm so glad. So if your mom said things like, if you were driving in the car, or you were going somewhere and you were going to a friend's, and your mom would say, oh, their house is so messy. I cannot believe that they would live like that. That's disgusting. So as a little girl, you write down, people who are messy are disgusting. Or if your mom makes a comment, or your grandpa, or someone you trust says something like, people who are overweight are lazy. They have no self-control. So now you're writing down, people who are overweight have no self-control and lazy, and they're not acceptable. So now this just becomes part of, I wrote this down, food rules. You must follow as a kid, or else you would get rejected. So you're writing down these rules because you think, oh my goodness, my mom, if I become fat, she won't love me. And then she'll kick me out, and then I'll be destitute, and I won't know how to take care of myself because I'm just a kid. So now we have these subconscious belief systems, right? These food rules are like, don't, you have to finish your plate. You cannot waste food. There are children starving in China. Money doesn't grow on trees. You need to be grateful. What's wrong with you? You're not grateful. You could get kicked out. This actually felt so dangerous. And as a kid, you can't take care of yourself. And you see, remember those TV commercials of like World Vision of those children in Africa who had those extended stomachs and like it was so sad. You're like, oh boy, I cannot get kicked out. I cannot take care of myself. And the problem is you have now wired your brain with those rules. How many of you still struggle with finishing your plate? Right? And you're a grown woman. How many of you can throw food away? If someone in your family leaves food, can you throw it away, or does it feel like it's against the rule? Like you would think like my grandmother would roll in her grave if she saw me throw away perfectly good food. Yes. So Sarah, these are those rules, and you have hardwired them now into your brain. So that's like a habit. I think someone said that earlier. It's like, this is just a habit, right? You don't even think about it because you said it was unconscious because you consciously programmed it as a kid. And unless you go back into your brain and actually rewire these responses, you will never change. That's why women that I work with, when they're 60, 70, 80 years old, they're still cleaning their plate and they don't even realize it. So this programming is so ingrained in us. Unless we go back and actually consciously change, nothing will change. Okay. So part of this now, so we have two different kinds of hunger. We have physical hunger, which is actually, we need fuel. We need about 1,200 calories a day just at our hearts have to beat. We have, breathing, digesting food, sweating, our skin, new cells, like all of that, hair grows, blinking. That just is, our body's amazing. It just does all the things it needs to do. And we just get to live in this body, right? So the problem is we need food to survive. And so with like alcohol or shopping, we could say we're going to go cold turkey, but we do actually need food to survive. So this is why it becomes a little bit tricky. And so for the reason why people who work with me do so well is because they finally get to see what was this invisible rule book as a child. And they learn how to go into their brain and rewire the things that don't work. They also learn about their nervous system. So our nervous system is so we have two parts. We have the sympathetic nervous system, which is the lower brain, right? It's the one that says like always scanning for danger. It's the mama deer. And our sympathetic nervous system is on high alert. So if we're scared, our heart will beat. If we're nervous, we might sweat or our hands get kind of clammy because our brain, so we have what's called the vagus nerve, and it branches, it goes throughout our body and it branches all out. And it will monitor for all these things. It's amazing. Okay. So we have that nervous system. We also have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part of our brain that can say, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's just take a minute. So yesterday, Sarah, when you were at your family dinner and you were overeating, then if you can say, oh, like, Sarah, what's going on? Why are we struggling so much with that? And your higher brain will say things like, well, you know that you got triggered from your brother when your mother would make these comments about your brother, and so now you're sensitive. So if anything goes anywhere near that, you kind of react, and that's okay. But we're going to change that. And it's okay. It's amazing to see us changing. I'm really proud of you, right? So our higher brain can also say things like, we can do hard things. Isn't it amazing when we had, used to be really hard to tie our own shoelaces, and now it's super easy. So we're going to learn this new skill, and it'll take some time, but it's worth it. You're worth it, right? So all of those higher brain functions help us so much, but unless we understand our nervous system, both of them, right, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, we won't be able to change. We'll just keep running on autopilot. And that autopilot is very similar to how we reacted when we were 5, 6, 10, or 15 years old. So this negative self-talk, so a lot of the negative self-talk comes from our old, from what our moms would say, if you didn't clean your room, you're not a good girl. I always use that example because my house, my goodness, if you didn't clean your room. Even yesterday, I'm talking to my mom. She's 82 years old. She went to these people's house and she saw that their 11-year-old daughter's bedroom was messy, and my mom went on about it. And then my mom even told the mother of this 11-year-old girl that she would make her children clean their rooms every Saturday, and if their rooms weren't clean, they weren't allowed to do anything fun. My mom just told me that yesterday. It is so important to her to have a clean room and a clean house. And so sometimes, as a 52-year-old, I even sometimes will be rebellious. I'll be like, I'm not going to clean my room. So there, right? And isn't that strange how I like a clean room, but I can still fall back into old habits where I will be somewhat resentful sometimes because of that. And it's nothing's wrong with me. It's just that I need to be aware, oh, Dara, this is those rule books. And you're just fighting against that. So it's okay. You can clean your room and enjoy a clean room. You don't have to be rebellious. So do you see how it's not just with food? It can be with all sorts of different areas of our life. So where did that negative self-talk come from? So much of it was from your childhood. That's why I told you this training, it all kind of works together. So when you feel threatened, what is the body's reaction? So it says, danger, danger, danger. We need energy. We need to figure something out. And what is the fastest energy source? You got it. Refined flour, refined sugar. Pop is even better because then the body doesn't even have to crunch anything. It's just like a shot of adrenaline, right? And one of the things that's happening is recently I shared an Instagram post. I don't know if I have the pictures, but I had some examples of what the food used to look like, what the ingredients were, like in Hershey's chocolate. Remember the Hershey's chocolate syrup cans? It just was sugar, chocolate, and now it's all sorts of chemicals that we can't even pronounce. Okay? So we're not even eating the same foods. And what they call them is designer foods. And so we don't even know what we're eating. And so we're creating all these chemical challenges and super speed foods that give us this extremely high and then a crash. And then we just want more and more of it. It's like drugs, right? Obviously, well, not obviously, but I've never taken drugs. But it's just like when you think about a drug addict, they have to have more and more of that drug to get that same hit. And it's the same thing with sugar or refined flour. Okay? So when you think about that, what happens when you get that surge of energy this way? You get that surge and then you get that crash. And so what is it that we really want? We want to have satisfaction. We want to be happy. But if we're using food in this unhealthy way, we're getting this huge dopamine hit, and then we're getting this giant crash. And so we're not actually feeling our real emotions, and we're continuing that struggle with we're never meeting that true hunger of what we really want. The true hunger is emotional happiness, is emotional calm, is emotional peace, It's even like emotional sadness. Like if someone passes away or you break up with your boyfriend, remember those days when you broke up with your boyfriend? It's like the ice cream isn't going to help you, but just feeling that sadness, that's what's going to help you. We're not going to distract ourselves with ice cream and then get the sugar crash. We just want to feel that sadness and just let real emotions, because emotions, all they are is they're just like a vibration in our body. And if we can just feel the emotion and let it ease off, and then we feel the emotion and we let it ease off, and we don't have those crashes. We just allow ourselves to be a human, having a human experience. So what we really want is to be a human that feels everything and has a well-balanced life. We have the highs, we have the lows, but we're not having this like high and low crash all the time that happens if we're not eating food properly. I listened to a podcast recently with one of the leading experts in England about their food, and they're having a huge issue right now with they're taking away the food dyes and everything from the designer foods. And this medical doctor, he's been on a TV show where he takes entire families who are type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, they're not productive, their kids are overweight, obesity, like big problems, they're struggling at work. And he's putting them on these really healthy diets, which is just regular food. And these families are just, they're just amazed. They're like, they have so much energy, they're losing weight, they're having so much more fun together, they're not crashing all the time. And it's all because they're eating better food and they're having more talk therapy. They're learning about, why are we doing this? Why are we eating the foods that we're eating? It's really fascinating. All right. So we're hungry we need physical food. So we have whatever weight we are, we can kind of estimate like what would be, I don't really count calories, but it's kind of common sense of, these are approximately the calories I need. This is kind of the protein I need, the fiber. Basically, if you just eat anything that grew on the ground, swam in the ocean or the lake, and flew in the sky, if you can pronounce it, it's good to go, right? But this emotional hunger is the problem that we're not solving. Okay, so we eat to try to feel a certain emotion. It works for about 10 minutes, and then we feel guilty, and we have a crash, and we're then and that cycle just keeps going. So the way that we're going to solve this is learn how to just recognize the difference between mental, physical hunger and emotional hunger. Okay? And when we can learn to do that, we're on the races.